Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Yami gives Naruto demonic bloodline harem. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this birth of the demonic centipede allowed steady beyond throughout the mostly empty hospital room in the village of Koha. The only people in the room were the third Hokage hero in Kobe, and the other person in the room was the body of a young boy that looked about 5 years old but was actually 8. His once blonde hair was dyed crimson with blood. His once slightly tan skin was now pale and littered with bruises, cuts and burns. His once bright blue eyes filled with life were now dull and lifeless. He had 3 whisker-like marks on his cheeks and 3 holes in his stomach. He wore barely anything as his clothes were torn to rags and soaked in his blood. This boy was Naruto Uzaki, the recently killed Jin Shui of the 9-tailed fox. Paizen could only look at the body and guilt as he blamed himself for what had happened to Nudo. He was the one that told the entire village of Nuts burden the night he was born. He was the one that expected people who just lost a great deal of loved ones to understand that a child couldn't be the cause of their pain, and he was the one that thought that a few simple laws would be enough to let Nudo try to live a normal life. Horizon was also beating himself up for the fact that now he could never tell Nudo the truth. Naruto had asked him plenty of times why people hated him and who his parents were, and he had lied to Nudo every time on both subjects, telling him that he didn't know who Naruto's parents were and that Nudo should forgive the villagers for they just needed time. There is a new damn well that any normal person wouldn't have put up with half of that Naruto did. Knowing this hurt Herzen's heart more, since he knew that Nudo only put up with so much because of him. Just then the door to the room opened. Dan and walked to him. Otaku Am was a 13-year-old young woman with fair skin, long dark brown hair and large black eyes that were currently bloodshot. She wore a waitress outfit with black LWH-heeled sandals. The front of her outfit was covered in blood since she was the one to find N and bring him here. Nudo had been coming to her father's Ron stand since he was 4, and even though people called him a demon and a monster, she and her father only ever saw a hungry little boy. Hearing the steady tone from the heart monitor and seeing the lifeless eyes, Am knew right away that the little boy that she and her father adored was gone. As that information sat in her mind, she simply walked over to Nut's body, laid her head on Naruto's chest and started to loudly cry. Seeing this only made Harry's self-hatred grow as he clenched his fists tightly while looking down in shame. Minato Kina, I've failed you in the worst way possible, Herzen thought to himself. Limbo. Currently Naruto is sitting on the ground in a large gray void while a woman walked around him and seemed to be sizing him up. The woman was rather tall, standing at 63, with pale white skin, bright red eyes, waist length in black hair and hair's figure, wide hips, thick eyes, long legs, GG cup and a fat ass. Her clothes, she wore a tight black kimono dress with a deep neckline showing a lot of cleavage, a long slit up the right side showing her leg, red runes decorating the back of sleeves, and on her feet were black high heels. So you are my sister's chosen, the child meant to either bring peace or destruction, and yet here you are killed by the very being she favors so much, and you're so young at that, said the woman as she stopped in front of Nudo. Her voice was beautiful and seductive but also carried a dark edge to it. Who are you and where am I? Asked Nudo as he looked around. The fact that the woman said he was dead didn't really bother him, as he had come to accept that the villagers would kill him sooner or later. Sure, he was sad to leave his friend and that nice cat mask Ambo behind, but what could he do as death has finally claimed him? I am Yumi, goddess of darkness and the ruler of hell. As for where you are in limbo, or the world between life and death, said the known named Yami. Are you here to take me to hell for the fox's crimes? Yami-sama asked Naruto. Oh, so you know about the fox Naren, and don't call me Sama as I hate form melodies, said Yami. Very well, and yes, I know about the fox. It's hard not to figure it out with everyone calling me fox brat, demon fox, or fox scum, said Naro in a neutral voice. Dre, enough now, on to business. You see, Marchan, while you may be dead now, you won't stay dead. Like I said before, you are my sister's chosen, and therefore she won't allow you to die just yet. In truth, you've died a couple times before, but Kami-chan always had Shinigami see bring you back. The reason that isn't happening now is because I got to you first this time, so we could maybe make a deal, said Yumi. What kind of deal? Asked Nudo while being a little upset that Kami is playing with his life. Yumi smirked him, showing she had sharp fang-like teeth. Well, you see, I want you to become my chosen. I'll bring you back to life, but the catch is you'll really be a demon though. Will it really be so bad since everyone already sees you as a demon? Also, I'll give you the powers of a race long since gone known as the ghouls, which happens to be my favorite race, the Catch with this power is that you'll never be able to eat human food again and will only be able to live off human flesh and you may slightly go insane, said Yumi. Naruto sat there thinking about this offer he was getting from Yumi. She was right that everyone already saw him as a demon and a monster, so why not give them what they want, though he was also wondering what she got out of this. What do you get out of this? You must want something, asked Naruto. Oh, he's smarter than he allows others to see. Yumi thought to herself, like I said, the ghouls were my favorite race. I want you to bring them back to the world, and I'll allow you to do that by giving you the ability to turn others into ghouls and taking multiple wives, said Yumi. And how do you expect me to take multiple wives when I'm a demon that eats people, asked Naruto. Is turning people into ghouls with easy. Getting people to love him was much harder. There are plenty of people in your world that are demons and monsters without my help, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to find love now, do we have a deal, asked Yumi as she held her hand out to Naruto. Naruto looked at her hand for a few moments before he reached out and shook her hand. Oh, and I'll be changing your appearance a little and dumping a lot of information into your head, so don't be surprised if you wake up with a headache, said Yumi before Naruto disappeared. Good luck, Nutch Chan. I can't wait to see how the world reacts to your power, my little centipede, Yumi said to herself. Thus then two other beings appeared behind Yumi. So we are really going to be brought back to life in order to help that boy, asked the first figure. Yes, you two will help him bring the ghouls back to this world along with whoever he chooses, said Yumi. I don't mind, as he was rather cute, plus I'm sure he'll be quite strong and handsome as he grows up, said the second figure. Living world was still crying over Naruto's body when it suddenly started to thrash around violently. Jumped back in fear at what was happening, and Horizon stood up in fear that the Kawi was trying to escape soon. Though they both saw the color return to Naruto's skin, his hair went from blonde to crimson red, his wounds steamed as they healed themselves closed, and his body began to grow until he was a little above average for an 8-year-old. Once the process was done, Naruto stopped thrashing and settled down with a heart monitor giving off regular beeps showing that there was now heartbeat. Ohak, what just happened, asked. I am too afraid to actually believe that Naruto was alive again. I honestly don't know, child, but I tend to find out, said Hen. I can provide you with answers, said Naro as he sat up with his eyes still closed. As he slowly opened his eyes, Hirais in and noticed that they had changed as well, since they were dark purple now with slit pupils. Chan, go get your dad, as I only want to explain this once tonight since I have a major headache, said Naruto, but that went to go get her dad from the waiting room since they had closed down the stand when found Naruto. Once they both came back, Naruto began to explain everything to them, from being a Jin Shui dying and now being a half demon and half ghoul, along with still being a Jinu Riki. At the end of the explanation, and her father were shocked at all the information that was dumped on them, while Hen looked grim. Naruto, why would you accept such a deal if you were going to be brought back anyway, asked Hen. Because I had no reason not to accept. If I had allowed myself to be brought back by Shinigami-sama, I would have been brought back weak and just ended up dead again the next time the villagers attack me. It also doesn't help that I don't like the fact that Kami was playing with my life the first time I died. I should have been allowed to rest in peace now, though. Not only can Kami no longer play with my life, but I also have the power to defend myself, and the village gets the demon they always wanted, said Naruto while looking at his hands. While he may look normal, Naruto could feel the power that lay just beneath his skin, just waiting to be unleashed. His skin felt tougher, his muscles felt stronger, he could see things much clearer, his sense of smell was off the charts, and he could even hear Am's, Harem, and Tuchi's heartbeats. Then he felt a dull ache in his stomach that was gradually getting worse. So this was the hunger that Yumi was talking about. It wasn't as bad as he was expecting, but that could be because he had gone hungry plenty of times before. Suddenly Naruto felt arms wrap around him and looked up only to find Am hugging him. He took in her scent and it made him hungrier, but he simply ignored it in order to enjoy the warmth he felt coming from her. I don't care about any of that, Naruto K. I'm just happier alive again. I don't care what you eat or what you are, you're still just Naruto-kun to me, said as her body started to shake, and Naruto felt his shoulder become wet. Naruto frowned at this as he didn't want crying over him. Pissin could only give a small smile at this. Sure, this would take some getting used to, but at least Naruto was back and his personality hadn't changed too much. Speaking of your new eating habits, Naruto K, how are we going to handle that? Asked Hen. I'm sure there are plenty of people in prison that are going to be sentenced to death, so why don't I just eat them, said Naro. I was already planning that, Naruto, but I can't just have you walk into our prison every time You're hungry, said Hen. Gucci took a deep breath at this before coming to a decision. If you send me the bodies of dead inmates, I'll prepare them so that they at least appear like human food, said Tui. Are you sure about that, Tui? San, doing that kind of work can be very taxing on the human mind, asked Hen. I'm sure HOK Sama, said Tucci. Wait a minute, I can ask you to do that for me, Tucci. You already don't have as much business as you should simply because you serve me. If you start serving human flesh, you won't have a business at all. Plus, I don't want you and Amchan to deal with the stress of preparing my meals, said Nudo. Nonsense, Naruto. I want to do this as it helps you. You may be a demon and a ghoul now, but you weren't before and only chose to become this because of the humans that pushed you this far. It makes me ashamed to call myself human, so in order to make up for what my race has done to you, the least I can do is make you something to eat, said Tucci. Naruto, seeing that he couldn't talk Tui out of this, just nodded, but as soon as Tui and Am appeared to be losing that spark of life he constantly saw in them, he would make them stop. Now there's the issue of explaining your new abilities to the council, and don't worry about him and Tui's business, Nudo, as I'll be funding them, said Hen. Tell them it's a bloodline, since my abilities will be passed down to my children, or tell them the truth that I have become an actual demon now. I really don't care what you do and I'll go along with whatever you tell them, said Nudo before his stomach roared loudly. Let's get you something to eat before we discuss anything else, said Hen. 8 years later, Jaisen sat behind his desk looking at the young man in front of him. The young man stood at 510 with lightly tan skin, a lean but muscular frame, and shoulder-length spiky crimson red hair. For clothes he wore black combat boots, black cargo pants with the image of a red centipede wrapped around the right leg and held up by a silver belt that looked like a centipede, a dark red sleeveless muscle shirt with the image of a snarling hyena on the front, and a white skull with a black centipede going in and out of the mouth and eye sockets on the back, black fingerless gloves, and his face was covered by a white mask with red markings designed to look like a centipede. His right forearm has the image of a centipede wrapped around it, while his left forearm is the image of a hyena head. He also had the standard U tattoo on his upper right arm. This young man is U Captain Centipede, currently Hen's youngest and best Ambu operative. Take off the mask, Naruto, we have some things to discuss, said Hen. The now known Naruto took off his mask, showing that his smirking face had become more angular over the years as he placed the mask on his left hip. Jaisen had signed Naruto up for a new almost a day after everything had changed, as he knew with Naruto's new abilities and eating habits that he would need the best training possible. What he didn't expect was for Naruto to take to Ambu life like a fish to water, mostly the assassination and interrogation missions. Naruto worked hard and quickly became a captain at age 12, with every mission he's taken being successfully completed. He mostly worked with U-Cat and U-Snake before they were later joined by Ambu Shark. While being one of the best, Naruto was also one of the most feared due to the fact that he usually made his target suffer before finally killing them, and he became twice as brutal if you pissed him off once. While he was leading a mission, a simple extermination mission to take out a camp full of missing nin, a member of his team kept questioning his plan's leadership skills and his orders. Needless to say, Nudo was pissed. He forced the whole team to watch as he savagely beat the questioning Ambu down and then threatened to eat him if he dared to do so again. He then proceeded to destroy the camp on his own while eating the ones he found had the most flavor. After that, it became an unspoken law that you do not question Centipede, and when he gives you orders, you follow the orders. It's so, old man, what's so important that you're calling me by my name rather than my code name? The council giving you crap again, asked Naruto. Like you wouldn't believe, said Hin with a tired sigh. You know, if you just let me eat them, it would get rid of some of your problems, suggested Naruto, and create a list of new ones. So no, you can't eat them anyway. I called you here for a mission. I have reason to believe that one of the academy's teachers is a traitor for my former student Orochimaru. I want you to go to the academy and see if you can find anything, and if need be, bring the traitor in or bring him down. Also, I'm putting you on a gen team, said Hen. What, you're demoting me? Yelled Nudo, not at all happy about being demoted from Ambu to Janine. No, well, sort of. I'm making you a Janine, but it's also a mission. Do you know Sasuke? Asked Hen. Of course I do. He's the last surviving after his brother went crazy and killed his whole clan save for his little brother. If I remember correctly, you sent me on a mission outside the village so that I couldn't grab one of the bodies and snack on it. Not cool, by the way. I bet those acha were tasty since they only ate the best kind of food, said Nudo, though he grumbled the last part to himself. He then started to grumble about how he had to miss out on a feast because of mean old man. This made her is In Sweat Drop Naruto, please focus. Sajua has been deemed a flight risk, so I'll be placing you on his team in order to keep an eye on him, and no, you cannot eat him if he tries to betray the village. You are to capture him and bring him back to the village. Very well, but I hope you don't expect me to change how I act just because a bunch of wet behind the ear Genin might get offended. I'm the infamous centipede. I chew you up and you out literally if you piss me off, said Naruto. Just try not to traumatize them too much. Some of them are future clan heads. Your mission starts tomorrow. At team placements now. With that out of the way, how's the family? Asked Hen. At this question, Naruto actually gained a true smile on his face rather than his usual sadistic smirk. At only 16 years old, Naruto had a wife, 2 girlfriends, and a child now. Well, most would believe that Naruto was too young with too dangerous of a job to handle all of that, but he actually did a pretty good job of keeping his family happy. It helped that since he always finished his missions quickly, he could be home for them. Plus, demon chakra and forced shadow clones were very helpful. They're fine. I make sure they're happy and taken care of. In fact, you should come visit sometime. My little one likes it when you visit, said Naruto. She tried to eat my finger the last time I visited, said Hin with a dead pan. She's a baby, don't complain, said Naruto. Later that day, Naruto is currently walking down the street in the red light district toward his home. He had long since moved out of his old apartment into a rather nice house. As he walked down the street, the people didn't glare or insult him. Some said hi and others waved. This was mostly because Naruto pretty much owned the entire red light district. He had eaten all of the major gangs and drug dealers, and everyone pretty much knew that if you cause trouble in the red light, then Naruto would sink his teeth into you. After a couple of minutes, he arrived at his house, a nice single story with 5 bedrooms, 2 1/2 bathrooms, a large kitchen that was open to the living room, and a pool in the large backyard. Opening the front door, Yuto took off his boots and walked further into the house until he came into the living room and smiled upon seeing his wife and child. Oroku Uzumaki was sitting on the couch playing with her daughter with a large smile on her face. Had only grown more beautiful over the years, as she now stood at 5 feet 6 with a slim figure despite having had a child. Her dark brown hair reaching the middle of her back, large D-cup long legs, and a nice fur mask. She's currently wearing black pants and a yellow t-shirt. Naruto and started dating when he turned 13. He married and turned her into a demonic ghoul like him at 14, and they had their daughter around the time he turned 15. They named her Hanami. Uzumaki Hanami looked much like her mother with her fair skin and brown hair, but she had her father's purple eyes. She was currently wearing a yellow dress with a matching bow in her hair. Bellucci wasn't too happy that his daughter got married and then had a baby while still very young. Once he saw how happy she was with Naruto, he quickly got over it. Hayam-chan, Hanami-chan, I'm home, said Naruto upon hearing Nut's voice. And Hanami turned to look at him. Papa, squealed Hanami as she raised her hands to her father with a large smile on her face. Simply smiled lovingly at her husband as she held a physical manifestation of their love. Naruto crouched down and held his arms out, seeing the Sonami wiggled out of her mother's hold and onto her feet before she started to waddle over to Naruto. Naruto smiled as his daughter walked to him in a way that showed she was still getting used to walking. He scooped her up in his arms when she made it to him and started kissing her cheeks, which caused her to giggle. Welcome home, honey, said as she kissed him on the lips. Just then another woman came out of one of the back rooms. She was rather short, standing at just 5 feet 2 with fair skin, black eyes, long crimson red hair that was down her back and done in a way that made it look like horns, a nice bubble. But in perky D-cup, she was currently wearing simple black pants, a cream-colored shirt, bandages loosely wrapped around her neck, and a Konoha headband on her forehead. This woman is Ringo, newest member of Koha, as Ambush Shark and Naruto's girlfriend. Naruto had found Amiri while out of the village on a mission when he was 14. She was heavily injured after being betrayed by her apprentice and having her kebab blade stolen. Naruto thought about simply eating her at first, but had to admit to himself that he thought she was beautiful, so he patched her up as much as he could before taking her back to the village for them to finish up. Once he got her back to the village and checked out by professionals, they told him she had some kind of disease that was killing her, and they couldn't even begin to think of a way to cure it. When she was well enough to move on her own, she thanked Naruto for saving her and then tried to leave in order to get her swords back. Naruto tried to stop her by saying she wasn't well enough to leave, but she was stubborn and challenged him to a fight. If she won, he'd let her go, but if he won, she'd stay and rest a bit more. The fight between them was intense and really made Naruto work. In the end, he won, but was impressed with how good she was even with a deadly disease and not being fully healed. After the fight, Amy asked him about the abilities he used during their fight. He told her what he was, and instead of being sickened or fearful, she actually found it hot over the time she spent recovering. And Kohashi and Naruto grew close. He had even convinced her to join Koha, but only on the condition that they let her go back and finish the rebellion. In Kiri Paisen had agreed to this, but she had to stay with Naruto. Amori was perfectly fine with that, as she found Naruto's cystic side very sexy. Amori was actually the one to ask him on a date. He explained that he was going to have more than one woman in his life, and he was surprised to find out that she really didn't care about that. During their dating period, her disease caught up with her and she was on the verge of death. It was then that Naruto told her that he could turn others into demonic ghouls like him. She quickly demanded that he turn her, because if she was going to die, then she wanted to die in battle, not because of some shitty disease. After being turned, Naruto helped her train in her new abilities. At the end of their training, Amy was, if even possible, even more dangerous than she was before. She had even helped him take over the red light as training to control her hunger. She also liked it when her prayer and from her, "Hey Nakan, how you're meeting with the old Fargo?" asked Amir. He gave me a mission that involves me becoming a Janine, so I'm not too happy about that, said Naruto while Amy snickered at him. What are you doing here anyway? I thought you'd still be in Kiri helping out with the rebellion. Not that I'm not happy to see you, asked Naruto. I actually came back for some backup and was going to ask you and Anko to come with me, but with your new mission and all, I guess I'll just ask Anko. Plus the leader of the rebellion sent me back to rest a bit due to all my hard work and the fact that some of her soldiers were getting sick of watching me eat, said Amori. Bko. Midari was Naruto's second girlfriend and the only other person he had turned to a demonic ghoul besides him, and more on her later. Well, I'm sure you'll find Anyo-chan at the T&D building touring some poor bastard. You know how much she loves her job, said Naruto. I'm resting right now, but I'm sure I can ask her when she comes home tonight. Until then, I'll spend time with my man, my sister, and my cute little niece, said Amir as she kissed Nut's cheek. Even though she wasn't married to Naruto, she still considered Anko and her sisters and little Hinami her niece. But that the night went on with Naruto spending time with his family. Later, Anko would come home and join in their fun. After having fun and then eating dinner, it was time for bed. Later that night, knock knock, the sound of someone knocking on his door awoke Naruto from his sleep, and he was already annoyed for one. Whoever was knocking on the door awoke him from a great dream, and to the sound could have woken Hanami. It was almost impossible to get her to go back to sleep once she woke up. Knock knock knock, the sound of knocking continued, and Naruto found himself with a problem. He needed to answer the door, but his ladies had him pinned down and was sleeping on his right. Amy was on his left and Anko was on top of him. Hanami was in her crib next to the bed. Naruto carefully got his arms out of M's grip before slowly moving Anko off of him, then stood up, showing that he only wore a pair of black pajama pants. He then looked down at his girls. Aam wore a simple white nightgown. Only wore of dark blue lace panties, and Anko was completely naked. He would have stood there and enjoyed the sight them like this a bit longer, but he didn't want the knocking to wake Hinami. Walking to an opening the door, Naruto found a female cat mask Amber waiting for him. Cat, what the hell, you have a key to my place, so why didn't you just come in and wake me up? You could have woken Hanami, asked Naruto. The last time I did that, I walked in on you and Anko being intimate. I'm not doing that again anyway. Captain Hokage sent me to tell you that your mission has been moved up. The Traer has made his move and has stolen the forbidden scroll of seals, said Cat. Are you kidding me? I'm out of Ambu for barely a day and you lot let something like that get stolen. Once I get the scroll back, I'm quadrupling training for everyone, said Naruto while Cat ped behind her mask. Naruto's training was brutal and everyone in you knew he designed it just to hear their screams of pain. Captain, it was Pig, Boar and Badger that were on duty to guard the scroll, said Cat, trying to avoid having her training quadrupled. Fine, only those three will have their training increased. Give me a minute to get dressed and then I'll join the hunt. You go ahead and start looking for the bastard, ordered Naruto. Yes, Captain, said Cat before she jumped off to carry out her orders. She was glad mask kept him from seeing the light blush she was now sporting, as she secretly liked it when the young captain gave her orders. Naruto went back into the house and got dressed in his usual gear, with the only difference being the mask he wore. This mask was made of metal, only covered the lower half of his face and was designed to look like a grinning hyena with centipede pincers. It didn't take long for Naruto to find the scent of someone headed outside the village, so he quickly followed it so that he could get this over with and get back to bed. In the forest, a man of average height with fair skin, shoulder-length white hair and black eyes, wearing Koha standard tune-in attire with his Koha headband worn like a bandana, was currently running through the forest trying to leave the village. This man is Mizuki, former Tunin instructor, and on his back are two large shuriken and the forbidden scroll of seals. Mizuki would have continued going if he wasn't stopped by a voice. "Azuki, stop!" yelled the voice belonging to Iruka. Yami no Iruka was an average-sized man with brown skin, black eyes, dark brown hair done in a fanned-out ponytail and a scar going across his nose. He wore the standard tune-in uniform. "Why are you stealing the scroll?" Mizuki asked Iruka. "That's a stupid question, Iruka. I'm stealing the scroll for power, of course. For years now the Hokage and the Shinobi Council have denied me my rightfully earned advancement in rank, but now that I have the scroll I don't need them as I'll be unstoppable," said Mizuki. "Wow, you chose to be the generic bad guy stealing things for power, and here I was hoping you'd be original," said a voice from above them. Looking up, they saw Naruto sitting on a branch higher up. A demon sneered. "Muckas, no one had eyes like Nudo, dark purple slit pupils and a spark of insanity. That's me though. If you're going to call me outside my name, I prefer Centipede," said Naruto. "Please, you're nothing like Ambu, Captain Centipede. You're just using his name to increase people's fear of you," said Mizuki. "Whatever helps you sleep at night is I'm sure people fear me enough as it is, especially since you and your friends attacked my house the night my daughter was born. You ran away like a when I started killing your little group, though if you want I still have some of them in the fridge if you want a piece," said Naruto with a wicked smirk on his face under his mask. Iruka paled at hearing this. He, like pretty much everyone in the village, knew that Nudo had a child with someone, and he also knew that Mizuki had gathered some civilians and ninja in order to kill the child. Naruto and the woman that birthed the child apparently that had failed, and Nudo was still eating the people from the attack. Nudo never hid the fact that he was a cannibal, and from what Iruka knew from the Hokage, Naruto had unlocked a bloodline that gave him incredible power, but at the cost of becoming a cannibal. You, that abomination, and whatever birth it all deserved to die. You're just monsters that shouldn't be in this world, said Mizuki with a sneer. What you mean is we're not the right type of monsters, said Nudo. What? Asked Iruka. Oh come on Iruka, look at this man. He's betraying the village he grew up in and the people that trusted him for power, and because he thinks his skills weren't recognized yet. I, who have been nothing but hated for my entire life by the majority of the village, haven't betrayed anyone. If you look at it a certain way, then we're both monsters. The difference is I'm what you made me into, and you are what you've chosen to be, said Nudo. You know I plan to just take the scroll and leave, but I think I'll do the village one last favor and kill you, said Mizuki. But before he could move to attack in any way at all, Naruto appeared in front of him and buried his fist into Mizuki's stomach. Sorry about the pain. Normally I would have killed you, but I'm not in the mood and I want to hurry and get back home, said Nudo as Mizuki dropped to the ground. He then flared his chakra in a way that would signal the Ambo. All right Ambo, will me here in a moment, so I leave to explain everything. Mr. Iruka, bye bye, said Naruto as he jumped off. The next day Iruka stood in front of his class and he was nervous as hell. After returning the forbidden scroll of seals to the Hokajuka, was informed that Naruto would be joining the graduating class, but Naruto tried to protest, saying that it was unfair to allow Nudo to graduate since he never attended the academy, but here is encountered by explaining that Nudo wasn't in the academy because he was in U, and at that point Iruka remembered seeing the U tattoo on Nut's arm. Iruka had already announced all of the teams except for Team 7 because Nudo wasn't in class yet. Then the door opened and Nudo walked in like he owned the place. The only thing different about his outfit from last night being that he had a Koha headband acting as a belt. The kids paled when they saw Nudo. Well, their parents didn't tell them about the 9 tails being sealed in him. They did tell the kids that he had a bloodline that caused him to eat people. Now they were afraid that he was here to eat them. Nudo, you're late. You were supposed to be here an hour ago, said Iruka. Sorry, I had some personal things to take care of, said Nar. And it was true, as this morning he walked Amori and Anko to the front gate and wished them luck in the war. After that he walked him and Hinami to the ramen stand before making his way to the academy. Very well, take a seat, said Iruka. Naruto nodded, headed up to the last row of seats and sat down. Anyway, since we have a shortage of students this year, Naruto will be filling in the last empty slot. With that, Team 7 will be Sasukacha, Sakura, Haruno and Naruto. Yamaki, with your sensei being Kakashi Hack, said Iruka. He suddenly noticed that Naruto's bat was gone. Maruka sensei, how can Nudo graduate with us if he didn't attend the academy, asked Sakura. Sakura was actually the most Neutral to Naruto as her father would always tell her that he was a monster, well her mother would say he was misunderstood because of this. Sakura had decided to form her own opinion on him if she ever met him. I trained outside of the academy. Hokage-sama acknowledges my strength, and since there was an open spot on teams this year he decided to place me with this group, said Naruto. With Iruka confirming what he said, Naruto also glanced at Sakura's figure. She wasn't as busty as his wife and girlfriends, but she did have a fat ass and nice legs. Her forehead was larger than average, but he found it strangely charming, and he liked her bright emerald eyes and long flowing pink hair. Naruto blocked out Iruka's long as speech and order to take in his teammates, and he was not impressed. Sakura was cute, but he could tell she was a fangirl since she was very skinny with very little muscle tone, and she wouldn't stop swinning at the Sasuke was exactly what he expected. A brooder just looking at the tuner and knew that if he didn't do something that they would make his job a lot harder. Time passed and Naruto watched as the sensei after sensei came and picked up their assigned team until only him and his team were left. So the rumors are true here. Ear is late to everything. Damn it, this is time I could have spent with Chan and Hami-chan. Naruto thought to himself. Naruto had heard about Kakashi Haddock a lot during his time in U, but it never worked with him. He just hoped the Kakashi made his job easier rather than harder. Net whereas sensei yelled Sakura in frustration. I'd get comfortable if I were you, Sakura, as our sensei is known for being late to everything, said Naruto with a light chuckle. She was cute when she was angry. And how do you know that, asked Sasuke. Live in the red light district. You keep your ears open there and you'll hear some interesting things, said Naruto. Why do you wear that mask, asked Sakura. As of right now she couldn't see the raving monster that would kill her at a moment's notice. Like her father said, she decided to get to know him better in order to figure him out. The village already sees me as a monster. I figure I give them something other than the face of an innocent young man to look at, said Naruto. Is it true what they say, asked Sakura. Yes, it's true. Due to my bloodline I gain incredible power, but I can't ever eat human food again. I can still drink water and coffee for some reason though, said Naruto. The incredible power part got Sasuke's attention. Are you a demon, asked Sakura, deciding to get straight to the point. You know, I'm starting to really like you. You're not afraid to speak your mind and I find that sexy, said Naruto, causing Sakura to blush deeply at that. To answer your question, yes, I am a demon, just not the one people think I am, said Naruto. What did you mean by incredible power, asked Sasuke. You'll find out in time, said Naruto, not wanting to give away all of his secrets. 3 hours later, Sakura was pacing around the classroom in frustration at her sensei being so late. Sasuke was still brooding in his seat and Naruto looked to have fallen asleep with his hands behind his head and his feet up. In reality though, Naruto wasn't sleeping and was watching Sakura's ass. He really liked her ass. God damn it, where is he, yelled Sakura. At that point the door opened and showed a rather tall man with gravity defying gray hair, fair skin, and a single black eye. He wore the standard Jonin outfit, a dark blue mask that covered the lower half of his face, and he wore his headband in a way that covered his left eye. This man is Kakashi Haddock, sensei of Team 7. Team S, asked Kakashi, knowing full well that this was his team. My first impression of you is that I hate you all. Meet me up on the roof in 5 minutes, said Kakashi before he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Naruto got up and went out the door with Sasuke behind him and Sakura bringing up the rear. Once they made it to the roof, they sat down in front of Kakashi with Sakura in the middle, Sasuke to her right and Naruto to her left. All right, let's start off with introductions, said Kakashi. Why don't you go first, sensei, to show us how it's done, said Sakura. All right, but pay attention. My name is Kakashi Haddock. My likes, my dislikes, I have lots of hobbies, and as for my dreams, well, I haven't really thought about it, said Kakashi. All we learned was his name, thought Sakura and Sasuke at the same time. Naruto already knew all he needed about Kakashi, so he didn't care about the introduction. Now then, it's your turn, so why don't you go first, Pinky, said Kakashi. Sakura gave Kakashi a glare for the nickname before she started her introduction. My name is Sakura Huno. My likes or looks at Sasuke and giggles. I mean, who I like is does the same thing. My dislikes are Eno Pig and those that make fun of me. My hobbies are looks at Sasuke and giggles in a creepy way, and my dream for the future is looks at Sasuke and squeals loudly. Everyone looked at Sakura strangely for that introduction, and Sasuke even scooted away a bit. Oh, that's just great, a fan girl, thought Kakashi. No to self, never be alone with her, thought Sasuke. Yelp. Definitely need to do something about her being a fangirl, thought Naruto. Okay, moving on, you're up, princess, said Kakashi. Sasuke simply grunted at the nickname before giving his introduction. My name is Sasukacha. I don't really like Anything. I hate a lot of things and I don't have any hobbies. I don't have a dream but an ambition. I'm going to kill a certain someone and restore my clan, said Sasuke. I see Hakama was right to worry about him, though I should be able to help him, thought Kakashi. Sasuke-kan is so cool, thought Sakura, yet I'm going to have to take him down sooner or later. I don't think I lead him though, as the last emo I ate didn't taste too good, thought Naruto. All right, and last but not least, your upgrade, said Kakashi. Naruto, not caring about the nickname, simply shrugged and started his introduction. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like spending time with my family, training centipedes, hyenas and pretty girls. My dislikes are those that try to harm my family to get to me, those that try to control me, rapists, and those that can't tell the difference between a fox and a centipede. My hobbies include training and taking care of my family. My dream for the future is to simply find more women that can love me for me and rebuild my clan, said Naruto. Wait, you have a clan? Asked Sasuke. What do you mean? Find more women? Asked Sakura, well, thinking he's a pervert. Wow, I'm actually surprised you two don't know anyway. Yes, I have a clan. I'm actually the last known Uzuki, and since I'm from a clan and have a bloodline, I'm part of the CRA. Which means I need to take multiple wives in order to rebuild my clan and spread my bloodline. I already have one wife, 2 girlfriends, and a child. Sasuke, you should read up on the cross, since as soon as you awaken your bloodline, you'll be put in it as well, said Naruto. They can't do that, yelled Sasuke. He didn't want women and children weighing him down while he tried to kill his brother. They would simply be in the way. They can and they will. You have a powerful bloodline, Sasuke, and Koha is known for its love of bloodlines. I don't know why you're complaining, as you just said you wanted to restore your clan. You do know you need women to do that, right? Said Naruto. I'll rebuild my clan when I'm good and ready, said Sasuke. You will, but you'll have to be at least married by the time you're 18, or the council will choose wives for you, and if you don't have at least one child by 20, the council will take your ninja license and force you to have children, said Naruto, happy that he was safe from any of that since he was married and already had a child. Sasuke seed at this information, and Sakura was too shocked to say anything. No matter what she did, she would have to share her Sasuke. If she had known that from the beginning, then maybe she still would be friends with Ino, since they both would get the boy they wanted. She was also shocked that Naruto already had a wife, 2 girlfriends, and a child. Sakura remembered her father saying that Naruto would grow up alone and unloved by anyone, but then one day he came home pissed and said something about demons having more than they deserved to have. Sakura frowned slightly at this, as Naruto seemed fine to her so far. She'd have to get to know him better to fully understand why so many people saw him as a demon. I'm surprised the council would want a bloodline like yours to spread, said Kakashi without looking up from his book. Naruto grinned widely under his mask before he replied, the civilian council doesn't, but since it was a matter concerning a clan and a bloodline, they had no say in the matter. For the shinobi council, only the Hyuga clan head didn't want my bloodline to spread. The other clan heads decided that the positives of my bloodline outweighed the negatives, said Naruto. I see. Well, in any case, you all are not official genin. Yet the academy was just to see who had what it takes to take the real genin and test, so be at training ground 7 tomorrow at 7 a.m. and don't eat breakfast since you'll just throw up, said Kakashi before he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sakura was shocked at this information. Sasuke was mad but was sure he passed the real test as well, and Naruto simply shrugged and stood up. Well, I'm going to head home to spend time with my family. I suggest being at the training ground 7 at 10 a.m. Since he was late today, he'll most likely be late tomorrow, and make sure to eat breakfast. It's never good to go into battle on an empty stomach, said Naruto as he started to walk off. Hen, said Sasuke as he too started to walk off. Sasuke, you want to go out on a date? Asked Sakura. No, said Sasuke without even turning back to look at her. Sakura looked down in sadness before following her teammates. Chapter 2, The Centipedes. Wave PT1. The next day, Naruto walked into training ground 7 at 9:30 a.m. and the first thing he saw was Sasuke and Sakura, and from what he could tell they had been here for a while. Naruto shook his head at this, as it was clear they didn't listen to him. Oh well, they were fresh gen, and of course they thought they knew more than someone they never saw in the academy. If they were tired from being here too early, then most likely they didn't eat either. He would give them some of the food he has sealed on him, but he didn't think they'd like it. Why are you so late? Naruto asked Sakura. I'm not late. I told both of you that Kakashi-sensei is always late, so I came closer to the time he would really be here. Both of you are really early, said Naruto as he sat down under a tree. Sakura wanted to be mad, but she was too tired, and she had to admit he had a point. She had researched her sensei yesterday when she got home and found Out that Naruto was right about him always being late. The only reason she came early was to hopefully get some alone time with her Sasuke, but he ignored her the whole time. 30 minutes passed and then Kakashi finally appeared in a swirl of leaves. Good morning. Everyone said Kakashi. He was met with silence as Naruto was just relaxing. Sakura was too tired to say anything and Sasuke was very annoyed. Well, the test is simply all you have to do is get these bells from me before the timer goes off. Anyone who doesn't have a bell by the time the timer goes off will fail and be sent back to the academy, said Kakashi as he took out 2 bells and a timer. But Kakashi-sensei, there are only 2 bells, said Sakura. That is correct, because no matter what, one of you will be going back to the academy, said Kakashi as he walked over to one of the stumps and sat down the timer. You can use any weapon you want along with any jutsu. You know you'll have to come at me with the intent to kill if you want to get a bell. Your test starts now, said Kakashi as Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura disappeared in order to hide. A few minutes passed and Kakashi was still standing in the middle of training ground. They've hidden themselves well and I can't even find Naruto, Kakashi thought to himself, but Sakura was hiding in a bush, watching her sensei and wondering how she was going to get a bell when suddenly a hand covered her mouth and pulled her further into the forest area. She wanted to scream, but then the one holding her spoke, "Don't scream, Sakura, I just want to talk," whispered Naruto as he slowly let go of her. Talk about what?" asked Sakura with a loud whisper. "Working together to get a bell from Kakashi-sensei," said Naruto bluntly, "but then Sasuke-kun will be sent back to the academy if you and I get the bells. I won't let that happen. Me and Sasuke are meant to be together, so I'm sorry Naruto, as you seem like a nice person, but Sasuke-kun and I are getting those bells," said Sakura. Naruto deadpanned Sakura for a few moments before sighing and shaking his head at her. "Very well then, good luck with whatever plan you come up with," said Naruto before he started walking towards where Kakashi was still standing. While he stopped concealing his chakra, it was time for him to show these 2 newbies how to really fight. Damn, that was a lot of Sasuke-kun in one sentence, Naruto thought to himself. Sakura watched as Naruto walked away from her and she was actually a little shocked that he didn't argue with her. After all, she did pretty much tell him that he couldn't be a ninja because she wanted to with Sasuke. She actually felt a little bad about what she said. Now he came to her for help, probably knowing that a fresh genin stood no chance against a Jonah, and she turned him down simply because he wasn't Sasuke. Sakura decided that after the test she would apologize to him for what she said. She went back to her original hiding spot and watched as Naruto walked into the same field as Kakashi, but Kakashi was actually getting bored of just standing in one spot waiting for one of his potential students attack him. But then he finally felt Naruto's chakra and saw him walk out of the forest with his hands in his pockets, so one of them finally decided to confront me. I'm a little disappointed that they aren't working together, but I really didn't expect anything different. The HI thought to himself as Naruto stopped 10 feet away from him. "So you're going for a full frontal assault?" asked Kakashi. Naruto said nothing as he stared at Kakashi for a few moments before disappearing from sight. Kakashi looked around for Naruto until his senses kicked in and he looked up to see Naruto coming down with an axe kick. Kakashi jumped back to dodge the kick and he was glad he did, because when Naruto's heel hit the ground it cratered and cracked a bit. "Your reflexes are good since most people die from my first attack. This might actually be some fun, so please entertain me if you can," said Naruto as he cracked his right index finger like Keki and Yumori do before he charged a Kakashi who charged back at him. They clashed in a fierce exchange of T-jutsu with neither of them giving the other any ground, though Kakashi was having a little trouble dealing with Nar's style was fast, flexible, precise and powerful, a truly devastating style that Naruto used to the fullest. This is Naruto's centipede fist. The HI and Naruto continued to trade blows until Naruto finally caught a hole in Kakashi's defense and gave a strong palm thrust to Kakashi's ribs, which caused him to slide back from the force of the strike. Kakashi didn't get time to breathe as Naruto quickly closed the gap between them and sent a fist towards Kakashi's face. But instead of hitting Kakashi, he hit a log that Kakashi replaced himself with. The log shattered upon contact with Naruto's fist, so Kakashi was lucky he survived that attack. "Oh, so you actually managed to escape my last attack. It doesn't matter though, because while you can run you can't hide from me," yelled Naruto as he started to sniff out Kakashi with Kakashi. Kakashi actually shivered when he heard Naruto yell that. The tone in his voice almost sounded like a hungry animal ready to hunt down its prey. "I think I'll go and test the others and then come back to Naruto." Whispered Kakashi in a nervous voice before he took off to find Sakura, but Sasuke, how is he so strong? It must be because of his bloodline, Sasuke thought to himself after watching the fight between Kakashi and Naruto, but Sakura, wow, Naruto is actually pretty strong. Sakura said to herself, Bam it, I should have just teamed up with Naruto in order to get my bell, and then I'm sure Sasuke-kan would have gotten a bell on his own, said in Sakura. Hey Sakura, a voice whispered behind Sakura. Thinking it was Naruto again, Sakura turned around only to see Kakashi with his hands in the ram seal. She then saw a bunch of leaves swirl around her before she blinked a couple of times and found herself alone. One again. Sakura, please help me, said a voice that Sakura recognized as Sasuke's. Turning to the voice, Sakura paled when she saw Sasuke leaning against a tree with multiple shuriken and kunai in his back, arms and legs. Please help me, Sakura, please, begged Sasuke. Seeing the Sakura did the only thing Shish could do, screamed Sakura. Before she fainted. Once Sakura had fainted, Sasuke faded away with Kakashi taking his place. Maybe I should have used in ranked Jinjutsu instead of a dranked one, said Kakashi with a sweat drop. He then substituted with a log that was quickly shattered by Naruto's fist amid Kakashi sensei. Stop running from me, yelled Naruto. I'm sorry, did you say something, yelled Kakashi from a long distance away. The fact that you answered me means you heard me, Naruto yelled back. This time he was answered by silence. Looking down, Naruto placed his hand on Sakura's shoulder before he surged his chakra through her in order to wake her up. You okay, Sakura asked Naruto. Yeah thanks, said Sakura with a light blush on her face. No problem. Now if you'll excuse me, there is a test to finish, said Naruto as he ran off to find Kakashi with Sakura following him. When they finally found Kakashi, he was standing over Sasuke, who was buried up to his neck. Sakura almost panicked until Naruto calmed her by telling her Sasuke was just buried. Oh hello you two, I'm glad you could make it, said Kakashi with an eye smile before he quickly started to dodge attacks being thrown at him by Naruto. I won't let you escape me this time, Kakashi sensei, said Naruto before he jumped back and started going through H-Seal's water style water centipede jutsu, yelled Naruto as his mask opened up and he spat out fast stream of water that took the form of a giant centipede. Bashi was surprised by this but still managed to dodge the attack, only to then have to block a kick from Naruto. He then grabbed Nutke ankle and threw him away, only for Naruto to recover in midair and land on his feet. Naruto flew through hand seals before throwing his hands toward Kakashi. Lightning style lightning centipede barrage jutsu. Naruto is a bolt of lightning shot out of each of his fingers before taking the form of centipedes and charging at Kakashi. Kakashi managed to dodge 7 of the centipedes, but the last 3 hit him in the chest, only for him to then crumble into dirt, showing that he was an earth clone. Naruto then jumped back just as Kakashi came out of ground and tried to use the headhunter jutsu like he did on Sasuke, but Sasuke and Sakura, both Genin Hills, were watching in shock silence as they watched Naruto fight Kakashi. Sakura was actually a bit ashamed of herself, since she seemed to be the weakest on the team. Sasuke proved to be the strongest during the academy, and Naruto was showing that he was pretty strong despite not going to the academy. Meanwhile, she was taken out by a simple Jinjutsu and not even a high-ranked one. At that, Sasuke on the other hand was seething on the inside. He wanted to know what made Naruto so strong, but from what he was seeing, Naruto was only doing things that a normal ninja could do, so there was no bloodline at work as far as he could tell. He needed this power, so he decided he would study Naruto's moves from afar and try to learn from them. But Naruto and Cash Naruto had a bloodthirsty grin under his mask as he was really starting to enjoy this fight. Anyone in you would tell you that when Naruto starts to enjoy a fight that it was not good for Naruto's opponent. Naruto then created 3 Sealess shadow clones and all 4 of them started going through H-Seal's shadow clones. Where the hell did he learn that? Thought Kakashi in surprise. Kakashi knew Naruto was a Jinuriki, so he wasn't surprised that Naruto had the chakra to do it. He was surprised he knew how to do it. Higher style burning centipede jutsu, yell Naruto. Clone number 1 as his mask opened and allowed him to spit out a giant centipede made of fire. Blind style great breakthrough, yell Naruto. Clone number 2 as his mask opened and he blew out a strong gust of wind. The 2 jutsus combined together and formed an even bigger and stronger centipede that rushed towards Kakashi. Fire and wind combination infernal centipede jutsu, yelled Clone 1 and 2 at the same time. Water style hyena pack charge, yelled Naruto as his mask opened and he spit out a torrent of water that turned into 4 large hyenas. Lightning style electromagnetic murder, yelled Naruto. Clone number 3 as wave of electricity came from his hands and Supercharged to hyenas that then took off, charging a Kakashi lightning and water combination hydroelectric hyena frenzy. Yelled Nudo and the clone at the same time. He can use 4 different elements. Kakashi yelled in shock as no Janine should be able to do that. He quickly ran through H seals and used her of style Mudwell in order to block the fire jutsu. And then he started to dodge the hyenas after while Kakashi was finally able to take a breath as the jutsu had stopped chasing him. Those were some pretty dangerous jutsus, Naruto said Kakashi as he was seriously thinking that he might need to lift up his headband. Thank you, but now that we're warmed up, let's get started for real, said Naruto as Kakashi noticed that Naruto's right eye had changed. The white of his eye turned black with red veins going across the eye and into the skin around his eye, and his iris turned blood red. Bashi wasn't the only one to notice as Sasuke and Sakura noticed too, is that the bloodline he was talking about, what does it do? Sasuke cast himself in thought. So that's his bloodline. It looks kind of scary yet beautiful at the same time, Sakura thought to herself. Naruto cracked his right index finger and was about to charge a Kakashi but was stopped by the sound of the timer going off. Naruto's eye returned to normal and he took a relaxed stance with his arms crossed over his chest. Oh, thank Kami, it's over, thought Kakashi in relief. Moments later, the 3 Gen and Helpful were sitting in front of 3 wooden posts while Kakashi stood in front of them. Well, you guys did your best, but in the end you didn't manage to get the bells, said Kakashi. Are you sure about that? asked Nudo as he held up the 2 bells, surprising everyone else. But when asked Kakashi, I got these during our first jutsu exchange. We were moving so fast that you didn't notice me snatch the bells, said Nudo. Well, that's impressive, but now that you have both bells, what are you going to do with them? asked Kakashi. That's simple, I'm going to give them to Sasuke and Sakura. They've been through the entire academy while I simply showed up, so I feel they deserve to be ninja, said Nudo as he threw a bell to both Sakura and Sasuke. Sasuke had no problem taking the bell as he deserved to be a ninja more than anyone, but Sakura hesitated in taking her bell. In her head she went over everything that had happened during the test. She was ashamed to say that she hadn't done anything at all, and while Nudo had never been in the academy, he did better than even Sasuke. I can't take this, Naruto. You and Sasuke actually did something to get the bells while I got knocked out by a jinjutsu. If anyone deserves to be ninjas, it's you and Sasuke, said Sakura, not noticing that she didn't add the K suffix to Sasuke's name. Sasuke was just fine with Sakura giving up her bell. That way he wouldn't have to deal with a fangirl and he'd have more time to learn Nuts moves so that he could kill Itachi. Well, in that case you all pass, said Kakashi with a knee smile. This test was never about getting the bells but about teamwork. I'll admit that I was a bit worried you'd fail when Sakura refused to work with Nudo and Sasuke refused to work with anyone at all, but it seems you pulled it off in the end, said Cash. Hearing that a refusing to work with Nudo would have caused them to fail the test made Sakura feel worse about what she said to Naruto. She glanced over at Naruto and noticed how relaxed he was now. It was completely different from how he was during the test when he seemed ready to tear through their sensei just to get the bells. I want the 3 of you to remember this as I live by these words. Those who break the rules are trash, but those who abandon their friend and comrades are worse than trash. With that said, meet me here tomorrow at the same time for our first mission as Team 7, said Kakashi with a thumbs up. Sakura smiled and cheered at this. Sasuke smirked in arrogance and you couldn't tell Nuts' reaction thanks to his mask Rahul Sharma. But that done, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke. Sasuke started walking towards the compound. Nudo started walking towards Ichiraku's ramen to see his family, and Sakura stood there in the middle while trying to decide whether to go and follow Sasuke after Naruto. If either of you want to celebrate being a team, then follow me, said Naruto as he continued to walk. Sasuke paused at this for a moment before he turned and started to follow Nudo as he decided that if he was around Naruto a little more he could learn the secret to Naruto's power. Sakura sighed in relief at this as now she didn't have to pick, so she quickly followed after Sasuke and Nudo. OAGE Tower Harrison, his 3 advisors and the Jun and Sensei for the teams that passed had just finished watching Team 7's test, and all except for Horizon and the Hitting Yuga were shocked at the results. It was then Kakashi appeared in a puff of smoke while reading his book, the H.I. Haddock, reporting that Team 7 has passed their test. Hokage-song, said Kakashi without looking up from his book. Very good, Kakashi. Now tell me, what do you think of the team, said Hen. In all honesty, Hokage-sama, I fully expected this team to fail. From reading Sasuke's file to my brief exchange with him, it's clear that he has not only a superiority complex but an inferiority complex as well, so being on a team with someone stronger than him will not sit well with Sakura may be strong in theory and book smart, but she's weak in anything practical. She just a fangirl for Sasu. Kaz of right now, and if what I heard was correct, she rejected Nut's help simply because he wasn't Sasuke. Finally, there's Naruto. He might be too much of a wild card. He's very strong for someone who I can only assume is self-trained. Then there is the fact that he's difficult to read. He was calm and relaxed before the test began, but when we started to fight he was like an aggressive beast ready to tear me apart, said Kakashi. Are you sure it was wise to put that boy on a team, asked Kurai. She didn't like Naruto at all since she didn't like what he did to her friend Anko, and she definitely didn't trust him to be a ninja. Parison knew this. In fact, he knew that her and his own son Asuma thought the same about Naruto, and it greatly disappointed him, but he never did anything about them since they never actively harmed Naruto. Plus Naruto could take care of himself. Yes, I'm sure Kurandai, though you and many others don't like or trust Naruto. I'll have you know that I would trust Naruto with my life before I even consider trusting it to anyone else in this room, said Hin with nothing but conviction in his voice. So you trust that cannibalistic monster even more than me? That's low even for you, Dad, thought a pissed off Asuma. Sure, him and his dad didn't have the best relationship, but what he just said really struck a nerve with him. Now with that said, I think I'll call an end to this little meeting, said Hers in just a moment. Horizon, as you are the only one here with any insight into the Jin Kui's mind, I feel we should continue watching the boy to be sure he is loyal to the village, said Danzo. In truth, Danzo just wanted more information on Naruto because he saw Naruto as a very valuable weapon. He had even sent multiple groups of his rude ambo in order to either cap Naruto or his family, but each group never came back. First, it's Hokage saw it to you, and the next time anyone in this room forgets that, I'll have you executed on the spot. Second, he has a name, so I suggest you use it. And third, I know that Naruto-kan is at least loyal to me, because if I asked him to kill any of you, he'd do it while probably laughing about it. He's actually offered to kill you plenty of times, but I told him that the paperwork I would have to deal with because of it wasn't worth it. It's becoming worth it more and more every day, said Hin while directing the last part at his advisors Amora and Kaharu. Paled at this. Well, Danzo didn't show any emotion at all, though on the inside he really didn't like that he was secretly threatened by Hin, and without knowing the full capabilities of the Jin Chui, he didn't know how to counter him. He just have to help his arm, and the Sharingans he had would be enough. What will happen when you step down from being Hokage again, or you die, asked Ashuma. If I step down, then everything will be fine, but if I die, then I hope that the council picks the right person to become Hokage, said Hin, as he knew exactly what would happen if they made, say, Danzo Hokage. What would happen? Hokage-sama, asked Guy. If the new Hokage tries to make Naruto into a weapon or harm his family in any way at all, I have full faith that Naruto will personally declare war on the village, said Hin with his voice nothing but serious. This made everyone in the room widen their eyes in shock, even Danzo. Why would you put someone like that on a team, screamed Kurai. I let that little outburst slide this time, Miss Yuhi, but I suggest you watch your tone. I put Naruto on a team because of what I just said. Growing up, Naruto has had very little love or trust for this village, as the people in it treat him lower than dirt. Naruto currently only has a very small part of the village that he cares for, and that's the people in the red light district, his family and myself. As far as everyone else is concerned, he wouldn't give you a second thought if you died with him being on this team, though Naruto will grow bonds outside of the red light and therefore be more inclined to protect the village as a whole, said Hizen. What I just said was pure. If he does bond with anyone, he'll just move them into the red light and then watches the rest of the village burns. Horizon thought to himself that information will be helpful in dealing with him during training, but I have to agreed with Dao Dono. I'd like to see more of Nutke personal life so that I can get a better R on him as a person, said Kakashi. Though he really didn't like agreeing with Danzo at all. Very well, then let us watch, said Hin as he activated his crystal ball once again at Aku Ramen. It only took a few minutes for the Janine to reach Aku Ramen, and once they walked inside, Naruto smiled behind his mask when he saw his father-in-law behind the counter and his daughter sitting on the counter smiling. Naruto then took off his mask and therefore showing his whole face to his teammates for the first time. Sasuke of course didn't care, but Sakura blushed at just how handsome Naruto was, and the whisker marks on his cheeks just seemed to make his appearance even better. Papa, squealed Hanami when she saw her father walk in. Naruto quickly walked over to her, picked her up and started kissing her all over her face, which caused her to giggle. Hanami stopped giggling though when she saw Sasuke and Sakura. Num asked Hanami as she pointed at Sasuke. Sakura, ah no. Hanami, they're not food, they're my teammates. Sasuke, Sakura, this is my daughter Hanami, and the man behind the counter is my father-in-law Tui, said Naruto with a laugh. Sasuke simply nodded, a little disturbed that the kid thought of him as food but otherwise not really caring. Sakura on the other thought that Hanami was adorable and quickly went over and started tickling her, causing Hanami to laugh loudly. Hey Pop, was Hammy Chan good while I was gone? Asked Naruto. Gucci smiled at his son-in-law while listening to his granddaughter laugh. She was just perfect, my boy. I even got some big tips just because she's so cute. Am I need a cup of coffee up here, said Tui before yelling to the back. Naruto, with Hanami still in his arms, sat at the counter with his teammates, but since he knew neither of them had eaten anything, he ordered them both a small bowl of ramen. A minute later, Em came from the back with a cup of coffee in her hand. All right, Dad, I got the coffee. Oh, Nuko, you're here, said Em with a smile. She placed the coffee down in front of him since she knew it was for him and then leaned in and gave him a passionate kiss on the lips. Once they broke the kiss, they noticed that Sasuke and Sakura were looking at them. Oh right, Em, these are my new teammates Sasuke and Sakura. Haruno, Sasu and Sakura, this is my wife Am Yumaki, said Naruto before picking up the coffee and taking a sip. Sasu and Sakura just gaped at Am for a few moments. Sasu thought she was beautiful as she clearly had a better body than the Kenichi in his age group, with the only exception being Ino, but she was a useless fan girl in his mind. Tasakm was beautiful, but since she was a civilian and therefore weak, she wouldn't be able to give him strong children after he had killed Itachi. Sakura though was jealous of Am's figure, and her Sakura really wanted to know what Am did in order to get a figure like that. I just have to know, how did you get your figure when you've already had a kid? Asked Sakura. Oh well, I don't really do anything special. I eat 3 meals a day and I train with NCOY, said Am. Wait, you train? Asked Sasuke, now very interested. My husband and my soon-to-be sister wives are all strong ninjas, so I need to be strong in order to protect my family while they're away, said Am. Naruto smiled at him as she always worked very hard when she trained with either himself, Anko, or Amor. Before they could continue talking, some big muscular guy walked in and was about to order from Tui before he saw Naruto and Hinami. His face became that of disgust before he started saying all kinds of terrible things about how they should just die, how no one loved them, and that they were just freaks that didn't deserve to exist. He then took it further by making death threats to Naruto and even saying he'd tie Naruto down and force him to watch as he raped Hanami until she died from it. Hanami didn't understand what was going on, but the man was scaring her, so she started to cry. The moment a tear left Hinami's eye, Naruto and Am were pissed. Naruto was about to act, but Am moved quicker as she quickly appeared in front of the man, grabbed him by his neck and lifted him off the ground with one hand. Other than the great amount of strength that Am was showing, Sasu and Sakura also saw that both her eyes had changed to match what they saw. Nuts, right? I changed to during a test. You will not speak to my husband and my daughter like that again. And you will never step foot in here again. If I ever catch you here again or anywhere near my family, I'll tear out your heart and feed it to my child, threatened a mom as her grip on his throat tightened. Her voice was so dark and demented that the man actually pissed himself in fear. Once the man started to turn blue from lack of air, Am let go of him but then quickly performed a spin kick to his stomach and launched him out of the stand. Worthless piece of Am, said to herself as her voice returned to normal, but Kakugan remained activated. Everyone currently in the stand was from the red light district, so we used to seeing Am like this and didn't react, though they wanted to slit the man's throat for what he said about Naruto and little Hinami. Naruto and his family had made their area of the village safe for their own families, so of course they were loyal to Naruto. Sasu and Sakura, on the other hand, were shocked. Am was just a civilian and that guy was about twice her weight and taller than her, yet she treated him like he was nothing. She has the same bloodline as that loser Naruto. As a civilian, it gave her that much strength and speed. Then what is it done for Naruto? I need to keep an eye on them and figure out how to make that power mine. Once I do, I'll kill Itachi and then this Am with birth a new breed of powerful. Sasu thought to himself, not at all caring that Am was already married. He felt that she would leave Naruto and any other family she had simply because he was in a cha. She's so powerful and she's beautiful. On top of that, she said she trains with Naruto. Maybe I should ask him to help train me. Sakura thought to herself, yeah, and while we're training we can get to know him better and see if boyfriend material, said inner Sakura. But what about Sasuke? Asked Sakura, still not noticing the lack of a suffix. What about him? He completely ignores us. I say we focus on Naruto, who's paid us more attention in 2 days than Sasu has during 8 years in the academy, said inner Sakura. Well, you have a point there. I'll think about it, as I don't want to completely give up on Sasu yet, thought Sakura back in the Hokage office. Well, I think we've seen enough of Naruto's personal life, said Hiruzen as he deactivated the crystal ball. Okay, that woman just assaulted a civilian. We have to do something, said Kurai. In case you forgot, Kurai, that woman is a civilian herself and is a co-owner of that establishment, therefore it is up to her and her father on how things are handled within her business. If you wish to involve yourself in the matter, then go ahead, but know this: you do not have my support, and I cannot guarantee that you'll survive your encounter with a pissed off Naruto, said Hiruzen with a serious voice. He had seen the damage Naruto could do when pissed off, and it was frightening. Why did that woman's eyes change, and what was it? It asked Anzo. It's part of Nutke bloodline. He calls it the Kakugan, and Harem has it is a clan secret, said Hiruzen. Why is it she had two? Well, it seems Naruto only has one, asked Kakashi. The ghoul bloodline, as Naruto calls it, comes in two main varieties. Regular ghouls have two kaken and are quite powerful, as you have just seen. Then there are one-eyed ghouls like Naruto who only have one kaken. They are stronger than regular ghouls. Now that is enough about Naruto. If you wish to learn more about Naruto, you'll just have to interact with him, said Hin as he ended the meeting. 2 months later, Naruto and his team were currently escorting a bridge builder to Wave Country because after 2 months of drank mission, Sasu had finally exploded and demanded a real mission. Naruto couldn't really complain since he used shadow clones to do the missions while he stayed at home with Yami. The Hokage had given in and given them their first SE rank, looking at his team and had different reactions for each. With Kakashi, Naruto was disappointed. He only worked on their teamwork and he tried to force them to be friends, knowing that Kakashi was a former Anu but was teaching them things that should have been taught in the academy. Naruto felt greatly insulted being under Kakashi's command, but Sasu Naruto has already decided that if Sasuke didn't get his head out of his ass, then he would enjoy breaking every bone in Sasuke's body before dragging him to be milked of his man juice. Naruto always saw Sasuke watching him trying to learn what made Naruto so strong. Sasuke had even once been caught trying to watch Naruto when he was training on his own. Sasu had even once demanded that Naruto teach him everything Naruto knew. Sasu Kid even had Naruto brought before the civilian council so that they could force Naruto to teach him. Naruto simply brushed them off by saying that since this wasn't a civilian matter, they had no power over him. He then left while giving them the middle finger. Sakura was the only member of his team that he had any positive feelings about. She had one day after getting rejected by Sasuke again came to him and asked for training. He warned her that it would be tough and he wouldn't hold back on her, but she accepted his training anyway. Looking at her now, Naruto could honestly say he had broken her of her ways and turned her into a real kunai. She still had plenty to learn, but she was already stronger than she was before. Sakura kept glancing at Naruto as they walked. After a full week of being rejected by Sasu, she had stopped asking him out and asked Naruto to train her. He trained her hard and forced her off of all of her diets, and the results really showed. She was more confident in herself. Her legs, arms, and stomach were much more toned. Her went from an A cup to low C cups. Her ass was bigger and firmer, and her style had even changed. She now wore calf-high black kunai boots, knee-length black tights, a short-sleeve tight red top that showed off her stomach with her clan symbol on the back, black fingerless gloves, and she now wore her headband around her right bicep while her long pink hair was worn in a braided ponytail. During her training, Sakura had gained deep feelings for Naruto and asked him out on a date. She didn't expect him to say yes, but when he did, she was greatly surprised. The date was simple, a picnic on top of the Hokage monument at sunset. But to Sakura it was amazing. Despite not being able to eat human food, Naruto had to teach how to make good food off just smell and sight. Sakura loved the food and made sure Naruto knew it with constant compliments. After eating, they just stayed and got to know each other better. She learned that her own father was one of his main harassers, which upset her as Naruto was a really nice person once you got to know him, a sadistic slave driver during training, but nice all the same. She looked at Naruto and blushed a little with a small smile on her face when she remembered how the date had ended. Flashback. Thanks for walking me home, Naruto. I had a great time, said Sakura with a smile. No problem. Sakura and I had a great time too, said Naruto with a small smile, which of course Akakura could see since he wasn't wearing his mask. I mean, come on, what wears a mask while on a date with a girl somewhere in the village? Kakashi sneezes and gets knot all over the inside of his mask. Naruto, why did you agree to go out with me? Asked Sakura while looking down. Why wouldn't I want to go out with you? Asked Naruto. I've gained weight. You're small. I'm not that great of a ninja and I have a large forehead, said Sakura as tears started to gather in her eyes. Her tears stopped though when Naruto placed his hand on her cheek and had her look at him in the eye. Burst. You haven't gained weight, you've gained muscle and it looks really good on you. Second, breast size doesn't matter to me as I'd rather have a woman with small that loves me for me rather than a large-breasted woman that only thinks I'm a monster. Besides, you have an amazing ass. Third, you've greatly improved in your ninja training, so don't worry about that. And finally, I don't see what's so bad about your forehead as I think it's charming. It makes me want to kiss it, said Naruto. Sakura was did the things that Naruto had said about her, especially the last part, is only her mother had ever called her forehead charming. Not even her father had ever said anything nice about her forehead. Her eyes became even wider when Naruto actually leaned in and kissed her forehead. Sakura turned completely red at this, but when Naruto pulled back, she lost control of her body and lunged forward and kissed him deeply on the lips. Naruto was surprised by this for a second but then quickly returned the kiss while wrapping his arms around her waist. Surprisingly, it was Sakura to be the first to introduce tongue into the kiss. But Naruto quickly dominated her mouth with his while she released light moans once they broke the kiss. Naruto had a smirk on his face and Sakura was breathing heavy while beat red. Good night, Sakuran, said Naruto as he let her go and started walking away. Good night, Naruto K, whispered Sakura, though Naruto still heard her flash back. And after that they went out on several more dates, and now Sakura was comfortable with calling herself Naruto's girlfriend. She had learned even more about him from her time with him, but she held no delusions that she knew everything about him, but she trusted that he'd tell her when he was ready. The only thing she didn't like about their relationship was that she could only be affectionate with him in the red light district so that her father didn't find out. She didn't know what her father would do if he found out she was dating the one person he hated most. Lucky for her though, she was able to tell her mother, who was very supportive. After walking for a while longer with Sakura asking the bridge builder Tazuna about his country, they passed a puddle. As soon as they passed a puddle, two figures wearing dark clothes, a single clay gauntlet each being connected by an shuriken-like chain and scratched out and horned Suri headband, came out of the puddle and tried to attack Kakashi, but instead found their chain pinned to a tree behind them by two kunai. Next time you guys want to sneak up on someone, try using a less obvious disguise, said Sakura with her arm extended, showing that she had thrown the kunai. Disconnecting the chain, the two men charged forward only to be met by Sasu and Naruto. The one on the right was up against Naruto and took a swipe at him using his gauntlet. Naruto caught it easily with the spikes on the metal and not even scratching his skin. If it wasn't for Naren's mask, the man would have seen Nut's cruel smirk. Thanks to being a demon and his ghoul powers, Nutke's skin was so tough that normal weapons couldn't scratch him. Only by enhancing a weapon with SHKA could you hope to cut him with only a quick spin kick to the side of the head. Naruto knocked the man out. Sasuke, on the other hand, was still fighting with his opponent since he had to keep dodging strikes from his opponent's gauntlet as he noticed it was coated in poison. Naruto just watched as he knew Sasuke's personality and ego wouldn't accept the fact that he needed help. After another minute, Sasuke finally knocked the guy out, but was still mad that Naruto finished before him. A job, team, you did very well in taking down this threat. These two are the demon brothers of Kiri. What are they doing here? Asked Kakashi after complimenting his team. I believe they were after Tazuna-san. Were fresh gen and so they had no reason to come after us, and unless you had a run-in with them before then they also had no reason to come after you, Kakashi-sensei, said Sakura. Excellent deduction skills, Sakura. And no, I haven't had a run-in with them before and only know of them from the bingo book. So Tazuna, you want to tell us why they were after you? Asked Kakashi. Tazuna sweated for a few moments before he caved and told them everything that was going on in his country and why he lied about the mission. Well, protocol says that we turn around and let a more prepared team do the mission, but I let you guys decide what we do, said Kakashi. We continue, all three said at once. Sasuke, because he saw this as a great way to test his power. Sakura, because she wanted to help and put the skills Naruto taught her to use in Naruto because he wanted to help and if got the memories of one more deer and mission he was going to eat the client whether he was hungry or not. But that decided they continued with the mission. After a quick boat ride they were walking through a forest until Sakura suddenly threw a kunai into a nearby bush. She then walked into the bush and came back out with a white rabbit in her arms and her kunai in hand, though the kunai did have blood on it. The fur on that rabbit is all wrong for this time of year, said Kakashi. Naruto then took a sniff of the air and found a Familiar scent, not only that but that rabbit is uninjured and the blood on her kunai smells human, said Naruto. Are you sure about that? Naruto asked Kakashi. Naruto, Sasuke and Sakura all gave him a dead panl. Are you seriously asking me of all people if they recognize the smell of human blood? Asked Naruto. Kakashi actually felt really stupid for asking that question now, because if anyone could recognize human blood it would be the cannibal of the team. Just then Naruto heard something flying through the air. Guys, get down, yelled Naruto as his Kakugan activated and everyone did as he said. Thanks to his Kaken, everything Naruto saw seemed to slow down and he saw that a large butcher knife-like sword flying towards them. Timing it just right, Naruto reached up and grabbed the handle of the swords and redirected its momentum and threw it back to where it came. Everything was silent while Naruto deactivated his Kakugan and crossed his arms over his chest while waiting to see what would happen next. Everyone slowly got up and moments later a shirtless man appeared in the tree above them. Using one hand to hold the same sword that was thrown at them across his shoulders. The man had a cut on his right shoulder that was impressive. Kid, I didn't expect something like that from anyone, said the man. Thank you, that's high praise coming from the demon of the mist, Zabuza Mamashi himself, said Naruto. How do you know him? Naruto asked Kakashi. Bingo book. Naruto said simply, well, if it isn't sharing and Kakashi, that explains why the demon brothers failed, but I have no business with you, so just hand over the bridge builder, said Zabuza. Not a chance, Abusa, said Kakashi as he lifted his head and showed everyone the Sharingan he had in his left eye. Oh, I get the Sharingan right out the gate, I'm honored, mocked Abusa. So he has the Sharingan but he's not in a ch, thought Sasuke. Me, I still think Naruto KS Kakugan is cooler, thought Sakura. Damned it if he's using that this early, it means that he's slacked off in his training since he left you and has become too dependent on the Sharingan, thought Naruto. Suddenly a thick mist appeared and Zabuza disappeared into it and flooded the area with killing intent. Naruto was fine with this and was in fact grinning under his mask. Sakura and Sasuke were different stories though. Sakura was shaking because even though Naruto has exposed her to killing intent during her training, but she knew she was nowhere near ready for something like this. She hoped that Kakashi or Naruto could handle Zabuza. Sasuke, on the other hand, was freaking out and was having flashbacks to the night his brother killed his clan. He had even taken out a kunai and was prepared to kill himself in order to escape the killing intent. Sasuke calmed down and just breathed. I won't let anything happen to you guys, said Kakashi. Don't be so sure of that, Kakashi, said Zabuza as he appeared inside the protective circle that Sasuke, Sakura and Naruto had formed around Tuna. Before he could do anything, he was impaled through the chest by Naruto's hand, only to turn into water a moment later, showing that he was a water clone. He then appeared in front of the Jonin only to have Kakashi put a kunai to his neck. It over, Zabuza, said Kakashi. Before Zabuza turned out to be another water clone. You're right, Kakashi, it is over, said Zabuza as he cut Kakashi in half, but once again it was a water clone. Zabuza then quickly blocked a kunai strike from Kakashi. With that the battle really took off, and as it was going on Naruto was becoming more and more excited. It was getting to point that he was having trouble not activating his Kakugan. The fight soon ended with Kakashi being caught in a water prison and yelling for them to run. This was ignored as Sasuke crushed in like an idiot, only to be harshly kicked in his stomach and launched into a tree. This caused Naruto to sigh as he sent a shadow clone in order to get Sasuke, as it seemed he was having trouble getting up. Sakura, watch Tuna-san and make sure Sasuke doesn't do anything stupid. I got this, said Naruto as he walked towards Abusa, but not before smacking Sakura's ass. He really loved that ass. Sakura blushed darkly but nodded. Anyway, you know, since we're out of the village we can do all kinds of naughty things to Naruto. K said in Sakura. Yeah, thought Sakura while getting a small nose bed from the ideas running through her head. So you're next to get your ass kicked, kid, said Zabuza. This only made the grin Naruto head under his mask grow as his blood was really pumping. Now what's the name of your sword, Zabuza asked Naruto. Zabuza raised a non-existent eyebrow at this but answered anyway, her name is Cubic Cacho, said Zabuza. That's a good name for her. And you are obviously skilled with her, so I know this is going to be fun, but since you have your dance partner out, I might as well get mine as well, said Naruto, holding up his right hand to abuse of the key for 13 glowed brightly on the palm of his hand. Before Naruto was covered in a puff of smoke. The smoke was blown away by Naruto twirling a large weapon around himself. Once Naruto stopped twirling the weapon, it was revealed to be a square and jagged side with an L-shaped blade and a sharp tip. Everyone, including Tuna, could feel the power coming from the weapon, and for Sasuke, who Was still holding his stomach in pain. It made him desire the weapon for himself. Duza, I'd like you to meet my dance partner and her name is Ju Jason. Now then let's see who wins between the demon of the hidden mist and Kohas. Demonic centipede, said Naruto as his Kakugan became full activated. He then cracked his left index finger and charged as Zabuza, who charged right back at him. Chapter 3. The centipede's wave PT2. The sound of metal hitting metal filled the air and sparks flew as Naruto and Zeus's weapons clashed against each other. Naruto was having a lot of fun since it had been a while since he's had a good fight. Zabuza, on the other hand, was shocked that Naruto was keeping up with him but was also starting to have fun. They then got into a blade lock with each of them trying to overpower the other. They pretty good, kid, said Zabuza. Thanks, so are you, said Naruto. They broke the lock and went back to their deadly dance of blades with Kakashi and Akira watching in awe at the display of skill while Sasuke watched in jealousy. Zabuza then jumped away from Naruto while going through a long series of hand seals quickly before finishing water-style water dragon missile, yells Zabuza before water came out of the lake in the shape of a dragon and charged at Naruto. Naruto charged back at the dragon while pumping chakra into his side, which started to glow purple. Poisonous slicer, yelled Naruto as he swung his side, then fired a wave of purple chakra. The chakra wave actually cut the dragon in half and continued towards Zabuza, who managed to dodge the wave and caused it to strike a tree. Zabuza watched as the tree quickly turned green and began to decay and fall apart. He was really happy he chose to dodge that attack. He then quickly raised his blade to block Nut's next attack. Don't get distracted, Zabuza, you may just die because of it, said Naruto as he continued his assault on Zabuza, but Sakura stood there in awe at just how strong her boyfriend was to be fighting someone that was strong enough to beat their sensei, though. Seeing how strong Naruto was caused two things to happen with her. First is that it caused her to realize just how much Naruto held back on her even though he said he wouldn't, and it also made her more determined to get stronger. The second thing it did was really turn her on. She was actually rubbing her thighs together in order to try and relieve some of the heat building in her core. Just take him into the bushes and his brains out, Cha said in Sakura. No, I don't want to have my first time out in the open after our first time together, then we'll in more exciting places, thought Sakura. Within her, Sakura agreeing back with Naruto. Abza was getting concerned as he was starting to get tired, but Naruto seemed to have energy to spare. Deciding he needed to end this now, Abuza managed to kick Naruto into a tree and then threw his sword like a spear while adding chakra to it. Naruto saw the sword coming and could easily dodge it, but instead he decided he would put the fear of Yami into Zabuza, though he knew Sakura was going to be pissed. The sword pierced Naruto through the chest and pinned him to the tree, causing him to drop his side, then his body to go. Him, Naruto screamed Sakura as she watched her boyfriend be killed while Sasuke was only thinking about getting Nut's weapon. Kakashi, on the other hand, seemed to be the only one that noticed that the shadow clone Naruto had made to watch after Sasuke hadn't dispelled with the supposed death of its creator. Zaba let out a breath he didn't know he was holding, since he could finally take a break. His little break didn't last long as he heard something that will forever haunt his nightmares. Nicely done, Zabuza, you actually managed to hurt me a bit, though I guess I should have warned you that I'm not that easy to kill, said Naruto with a crazy grin under his mask. He then pushed himself off the tree with Zuza sword still going completely through his body. After pulling the sword from his body, everyone saw his wound instantly seal itself shut. Naruto couldn't help but grin at this. His natural healing factor is in Uzumaki, plus the healing factor he gained from being a Gingari, plus the healing factor he gained from being a ghoul, plus the healing factor he gained from being a demon, all equaled up to 1 overpowered as healing factor. Naruto threw Zabuza's sword back to him and then picked up his side. Now then, let us continue, said Naruto as he charged at Zabuza once again. Sparks once again flew as Naruto and Zabuza clashed blades again, but this time it was clear that Naruto was winning. Then in a quick move, Naruto managed to cut Zabuza across the chest before delivering a harsh kick that caused Zabuza to crash against a tree. Zabuza tried to get up but quickly found that his body was quickly becoming weak and his vision was blurring. You poison me, said Zabuza weakly. Of course I did, centipedes are poisonous after all, said Naruto as he walked over to Zabuza. What are you, asked Zabuza. Unlike you, I'm a real demon. Goodbye, Zabuza said Naruto as he raised his side up in order to deliver the final blow. Before he could, though, Zuza was struck in the neck by Sennin needles and his body went limp. Looking up into the trees where the Sennin came from, Naruto saw a masked mist hunter. Nin, you took my kill. I don't like it when people steal from me, said Naruto. Sorry about that, but I've been tracking Zabuza for a long time now, and once I saw the chance to take him out I had to. Take it, said the hunter Nin in a neutral voice. Funny, since you've been watching us fight from the very start. Naruto thought to himself, next time be careful of who you steal from, or they might not be as nice and kill you instead, said Naruto as he sealed away Jizu Jason. Meanwhile, with Abusa now presumed dead, Kakashi was freed and made his way to. Sure, I'll try to remember that, said the hunter Nin as they moved his abuser's body and place his arm over their shoulders. Oh, and Hunter San, said Naruto, getting the hunter Nin's attention, I hope that the next time we meet it is on better terms, otherwise I won't be as merciful and kill both of you, said Naruto before his Kakugan deactivated and his voice returned to normal. The hunter Nin said nothing and simply took off with Abusa, though behind the mask they were incredibly shocked that Naruto had figured them out so quickly and yet still allowed them to take Abusa. The hunter Nin also hoped that they never had to fight Naruto again, since it was clear he was really strong, and the fact that he could heal so quickly from serious wounds was another thing to worry about. When they were completely gone, Kakashi walked up to Naruto and patted him on the shoulder. Nicely done, Naruto, though I must say I'm surprised by the level of skill you showed, and not to mention that healing factor of yours, said Kakashi. Stay tuned and you'll see a lot more than just that. Also, we'll need to prepare for when Zabuza comes back with his little friend, said Naruto. What do you mean, asked Kakashi. That hunter Nin was there from the start of our fight and didn't do anything about Zabuza until I was about to kill him. If anything, the hunter Nin is working with Zabuza, so we need to be prepared for when they come back, said Naruto. If you know this, then why did you let them leave, asked Kakashi while covering up his Sharingan. Simple, it wouldn't have been any fun to kill them both. Now Zabuza now has a little bit of an understanding of what I can do, so he'll be a bit more prepared for the next time we meet, thus making it more fun for me, said Naruto. You have fun killing people? Asked Kakashi while being greatly worried. A little bit, but I'm a demon. What do you expect, said Naruto walking away. Bashi watched Naruto walk away with a calm face, but on the inside he was extremely worried. Nar, what has our village done to you? Kakashi asked himself in thought, but Naruto made it over to Sakura. He noticed a pissed off look on her face. Hey Sakuran, how are you? Naruto asked awkwardly. Hey, a demonic ghoul he might be, but just like any man he had a healthy fear of women, especially angry women. Well, Naruto, I'm pissed off, said Sakura, giving Naruto a dark look. You are in so much trouble. How dare you scare me like that? We are going to have a long talk about this, yelled Sakura. Yes, Sakura-chan, said Naruto with his head bowed. Married life had really taught Naruto how to deal with a situation like this. You just keep your head down and agree with what they want. How do you learn the secret so early? Tuna asked himself in thought. Well, Tuna, we should really, said Kakashi before he passed out and was caught by Naruto, but it seems Kakashi-sensei is suffering from chakra exhaustion. He'll be out for a while, but other than that he should be fine in a few days, said Naruto. In that case, can you please take us to your house, Tuna-san, asked Sakura, with Tuna nodding. And as punishment for scaring me like that, you can carry Kakashi-sensei. Naruto K with no shadow clones, said Sakura as she began to walk off with Tuna. Yes, Sakuran, said Naruto before looking over at Sasuke. You coming, or do you want me to carry you too? Asked Naruto. Said Sasu as he got up and started to walk after Sakura. Meanwhile, in Koha, Anami was currently playing with her favorite ball outside of Itaku. Raymond kept the flaps to the stand open so that she could keep an eye on her daughter. Up on a roof not too far away was an Yu wearing a lizard mask that was watching Hanami. This particular Yu didn't like Naruto and his family because he had lost his own family during the Kaui attack and blamed Naruto for it. He had been planning for a while now to take out Naruto and his family, but couldn't because Naruto was very strong and very protective of his family. But now that Naruto was out of the village, he was sure he could easily kill the woman and child. Moving quickly, he jumped down with his sword drawn, ready to stab Hanami through the head, but he became confused when his blade hit the ground. Instead of the child looking behind him, he saw the child in the arms of her mother, and the mother glaring at him with her Kaken activated. You dare to attack my child? I shall feast on your heart, said him with a growl. I'm doing this village a service. You and your kind don't belong here, said the Yu before he charged at them. Didn't move and instead smirked as four cream-colored petal-like appendages with red eye-like orbs in the center came out of her back and protected her and Hanami. What yelled the Yu, as he had never seen any of the demons do something like this. He was then smacked away and rolled across the ground until he was able to right himself and stand up. What the hell are those things? Asked the Ambu. There is More to the ghoul bloodline than you realize, said just then the civilian that supported Naruto ran overtook Konami into their arms and ran into a choose where it would be safer, but the you didn't know what that Naruto had already informed everyone that supported him what to do should something like this happen, which was basically get Hanami into the shop and let him and his own security measures handle things well. Now that my daughter is out of harm's way, let get to the meal, shall we, said before she charged at the Ambo that charged back at her. The Ambu kept swinging his sword at but she kept using her Kagun to block his attacks, or she would simply shift her body to dodge him. Thanks to her training with Amori, she was more than capable of keeping up with a sword user, especially since this guy was nowhere near as good as The Ambo was becoming increasingly frustrated that he hadn't landed a single hit on him, yet he was an Ambu. Damn it, and she was a civilian. He should have killed her by now. His attack suddenly stopped as he found Am's fist buried in his gut. Before she kicked him in the chest, he struggled to stand up as he saw slowly walking towards him with a smirk on her face. Thus, give up already, I have a job to do and you're no match for me, said I figured trying to kill a demon on my own was foolish, but I had to try. Luckily I did bring back it just in case this happened, said the you before giving a signal, and two more you showed up, one with a cheetah mask and one with a mantis mask. Then all three of them started going through the same hand seals higher style fireball jets. All three of the Ambu yelled at once as they each fired a fireball at with their attacks combining into one huge fireball. Didn't move and simply used her Kagun to surround herself in a protective shell and tank the fireball. Once the fire stopped, opened her Kagun, showing she was just fine. She wasn't even sweating. Is that the best you have? That's very disappointing, said before she disappeared in a burst of speed and appeared behind the cheetah masked Ambo. She sent her kun at the Ambu and it wrapped around him and started to squeeze him. Ah, screamed the Ambu as he started to feel his every bone in his body start to break. His screaming stopped when one of his ribs broke and punctured his heart. Dropped his body without any care as she stared at the last two. Jetta, damn you, by yelled Mantis before he stiffened up. Blood leaked out from under his mask and he fell over dead. Standing behind him with an outstretched hand was a young woman about the same age as Naruto, with fair skin, waist-length dark blue hair, pale lavender eyes with no pupils, and athletic but feminine build, long legs, thick thighs, wide hips, narrow waist, a juicy ass, and large DD cup for clothes. She wore black key sandals, ankle-length dark blue pants, an open heavy lavender coat with white fur on the cuffs and around the collar, showing off her flat stomach, a dark blue bikini top that struggled to contain her, and a black joker around her neck. This young woman is Hinata Hyuga, and she has just killed the Mantis Sanu by exploding his heart. Hyuga-sama, why? Asked Lizard. Simple, you were attacking my future sister wife and I can't have that, so you and your comrades must die, said Hinata with a cold edge to her voice. Hinata actually used to be a very shy little girl, but when she was around 5 years old she was saved from some bullies by Naruto. Ever since then she's greatly admired him and always tried to thank him, but she was so shy that she couldn't even bring herself to talk to him, so she followed him around and watched him using her Byakugan. She was actually there when he was killed and was so scared that she could do nothing but watch as he was tortured and killed. She almost broke then and there, but the next day saw that he was still alive but different. She went back to watching him and saw everything he was doing in the red light. She saw how he was kind to those that were kind to him and brutal to those that hated him. Him eating people did disturb her, but she overheard her father talking about how a bloodline he awoke made it so he couldn't eat human food and could only eat human flesh, so she didn't blame him for it. Seeing this caused a change in Hinata as she vowed to be just like Naruto. She threw herself into her training and went from being a shy little girl that couldn't talk without stuttering and wore multiple layers of clothes to a confident young woman that wasn't afraid to show off her body and was desired by many men and some women. She was the sweetest girl to those she liked, but completely brutal to those she didn't. Before the you could say anything, shoved her hand into his chest and gripped his heart. I told you I would feast on your heart, whispered before she roughly tore his heart out and then took a bite out of it. Lizard fell to the ground dead, having only lived long enough to see take a bite out of his heart. Well, now that this little situation has been handled, what was that about me being your future sister wife? Asked as she returned to normal. It is as I said, I've grown to greatly admire Naruto for his strength, confidence, and his kindness. I don't care what he eats or that everyone sees him as a monster. I want to be with Naruto K, and since I know he is part of the CRA, I plan to one day marry him, said Hinata. Raised an eyebrow at Hinata before smirking at her. Well, aren't you confident you're strong too? If you could kill that you without Flinching, that's the kind of women Nudo-kan needs in his life, but he also needs a woman with a kind heart, said My heart is only kind to those who deserve my kindness, and Nudo more than deserves my kindness, said Han. Stared at Hinata for a few moments before turning away from her. Come with me and we'll talk about the possibility of you and my husband having a relationship, said Hinata nodded and followed him into the ramen stand. They soon went back outside in order to get the bodies. Hey, no reason to let perfectly good food go to waste. AKN Wave Naruto and his team have just arrived at Tuna's house, something that Nudo was happy about as Sakura had lectured him about scaring her the whole walk. Tsunami, I'm home, said Tizuna after opening the door and walking in after he said that a woman came out of the kitchen and hugged Tizuna. The woman was beautiful with smooth fair skin, long dark blue hair, dark eyes, an amazing figure, wide hips and D-cup for clothes. She wore a pink blouse with a red collar, a dark blue ankle-length skirt and blue sandals. This woman is Tsunami, Tuna's daughter. Father, I'm so glad you're home, said Tsunami. Well, it's thanks to these super ninja that I was able to get home safely, said Tuna. Thank you for bringing my father home safely, said Tsunami as she bowed to Team 7. It was no problem, but do you have an extra room I can put our sensei in, asked Naruto. Oh, of course, follow me, said Tsunami as she led Naruto to one of the open rooms. After putting Kakashi down, they went back downstairs and Nudo sat on the couch with Sakura while Sasuke sat on the other couch. All right, here is how things are going to work, Sakura and Sasuke. I want the two of you to check around the house and make sure this place is safe, and I'll have some shadow clones set up a perimeter just in case someone tries to sneak in. Meanwhile, I'm going into town to look around and see for myself what the situation is like, said Nudo. Who died and made you leader? Do asked Sasuke. You want to fight me for the right to be leader? Asked Naruto. Maybe ID Doses didn't get the chance to finish as Naruto quickly appeared in front of him and punched his lights out. Don't challenge me, I'm way above your level, said Naruto. Naruto was then suddenly turned around by Sakura, who snatched his mask off and smashed her lips against his. He quickly returned the kiss and then pushed his tongue into her mouth while squeezing her ass. Sakura moaned deeply as she loved it when Nudo would play with her ass. Both of them completely forgot that Tsunami was still in the room. Said woman was currently blushing brightly as she couldn't take her eyes away from the young couple that was passionately making out in front of her. But Nudo and Sakura finally broke apart. Sakura's cheeks were bright red, and she was breathing heavy. That was for turning me on while you were fighting Zabuza and for being so hot when you knocked out Sasuke, said Sakura in a husky voice. Well, thank you, but now you'll have to do what I asked on your own, plus you did that in front of Tsunami-san, said Naruto. Sakura's face quickly became even out of embarrassment for having pretty much dry humped her boyfriend in front of a complete stranger. Sorry about that, Tsunami-san, said Nudo. Oh, no need to apologize, I was young once, so I understand, said Tsunami. Please, Tsunami-san, from what I can see you're still a young and beautiful woman, and if anyone else tells you otherwise then they're either blind or stupid, said Nudo with a wink before he disappeared in a burst of speed to go check out the town. Tsunami blushed even more at Naruto's words as she moved a lock of her hair behind her right ear. He sure is a charmer, said Tsunami. Oh, that's nothing, you'll hear a lot more of that while we're here, said Sakura. And you're okay with that, isn't he your boyfriend? Asked a confused Tsunami. Yes, he's my boyfriend, but there are special circumstances concerning him that I'm sure you'll find out about in time, said Sakura. This confused Tsunami even more, but she wrote it off as a ninja thing and left it alone with Naruto. Nudo had been jumping from rooftop to rooftop for a few minutes now, and he was pissed beyond belief. In just a couple of minutes it was easy to tell who were the native villagers and who were G's men. G's men walked around like they owned the place with arrogant smirks on their faces, their pockets full of money, and they all seemed wealth. Those native to Wave, on the other hand, looked scared to be walking around. Most of them were flat broke and living on the street. Most of them looked like they were starving to death. Kids were running around asking anyone they could for money or food. They were sick. They were wearing rags or trash bags as clothes, and worse of all, Naruto had a few women crying their hearts out in alleyways as apparently they had just finished selling themselves in order to get enough money to feed their starving kids. I'm going to enjoy killing G so much that it's not even funny, Nudo said to himself. He wasn't going to stand for this. He had seen people in the red light suffer like this and had suffered like this himself for a time, and he wasn't going to allow a piece of like G to cause others to suffer like this. No, leave my mommy alone, screamed the voice of a young child. Nudo, hearing this, quickly took off towards where he heard the voice and was prepared to kill whoever he had to in order to stop whatever was going on down on the street. A young boy was being held at sword point by a man while his mother was being molested by another man right in front of him. The fact that this was being done in the middle of the street, in front of everyone, didn't matter as the civilians were too scared to do anything to try and stop this. The woman was in tears as the disgusting man holding her had one hand down her pants fingering her, his other hand was under her shirt groping her, and he was licking her neck. Hadn't she and her son suffered enough ever since G took over? Apparently not, since she was about to be raped in front of her son. What made it worse was that she knew calling out for help was pointless as no one would do anything.